So to sketch linear functions, pretty easy. There's 3 different ways that you can do it, and I guess it depends on how the function is written. Okay, so we've got this here. This is what we would call it's written. So this one here, it's written in Y-intercept form. Okay, so that's called y equals mx plus c. Okay, so that means we've got our slope is the m value, and this c is where it cuts the y-axis. So that's pretty nice. We can also write an equation like, let's say, 2x take 4y equals 7. Now when it's written like that, that's what we call general form. Okay, and you'll see in a moment that depending on which way it's written, it sort of leads itself into which method to use. Okay, so just be aware that's what those different forms are. Now, when we've got it in this form, y equals 2x take 3, one of the easiest ways, I think, is to just grab 2 points. So we do that by substitution, and we can choose any point for x that we want. One of the easiest values to choose is, of course, when x equals 0. And this is a double whammy because it will also be our y-intercept, because anywhere it cuts along the y-axis here, right? Remember your coordinates, your point. If it cuts here on the y-axis, that's the point 0, 5. Okay. If it cuts along here on the y-axis, well, that's 0, 4. So we'll write that there. That's 0, 4. This point here would be 0, 5. If I went down here, this would be, I haven't gone left or right, so that's going to be 0 minus 3. The key is that x is always 0. So to find our y-intercept, we make x equal to 0. And so this is probably doing part of option 1 and option 2. Okay, so when we choose our value for x, what we're going to do is we're going to replace it into this equation because we want to find our y value. Remember, every coordinate, every point has an x coordinate and a y coordinate. And if we can find those, we can just plot them and away we go. So to make x 0, we want to find what y is. So y will be 2 times 0, take 3. 2 times 0 is 0. And 0 take 3 is minus 3. So we've now got this coordinate 0, minus 3. Now we plot that on our graph. 0, you don't go left or right, and then we go up. Oops, we go down by down to minus 3. Nearly went up then. Okay, now all we need is one other point. Now we could choose when x is minus 3 or minus 4, right? Any value we want. I'm going to go with what's going to happen when x is 2. So once again, we go back to our rule, our original equation, and that's telling me to get your y value, this means 2 times your x value, take 3. So this is going to be 2 times, what's our new x value? Our new x value is 2. Okay, take 3. And we go 2 times 2 is 4, take 3, and we get 1. So that now gives me the coordinate 2, 1. So I can come along here, that means I go across 2, I go up 1. I've got my 2 points, so get your ruler. This might be a disaster when I'm graphing it, right? Get your ruler, and I'll change that to the color that we want. Let's go to the blue. Okay, so we will get our ruler. Oh, that wasn't too bad. And we connect the dots, and that gives me y equals 2x, take 3. Okay. Now, while we're here, what we could do also, so I hope you've written that down because this is about to disappear. So pause the video, get that down because I'm about to erase it. Okay, so now we've got another function. As soon as we look at this, we know because there's a negative here, right? Because there's that negative in front of the x, which means it's a negative slope, we know that 2 things. We know for starters it's going to be sloping that way because it's decreasing. So from top to bottom, it's going down because it's negative, and we know that it's not going to be as steep as our blue line there. Okay, this was a big number of 2. We've now got a half, which is a smaller number, so it won't be as steep. Okay, now we could do the same thing that we did with the example in the blue. We could choose some values for x, but we're going to do this another way. Both methods would work for both graphs. We're going to do it by, again, we're going to go, yep, let's get our y-intercept. So this is option number 2. We're going to say to get our y-intercept, that occurs when x is 0. Okay, so when x is 0, we end up with y equals minus a half times, what are we making x? We're making it 0, so this is similar to what we did last time, and we end up with y equals 1, so that gives me the coordinate. My x value is 0, my y value is 1. So we can already put our cross here. All right, where does the slope come into it? So we already discussed that this is our slope here, and remember your slope is your rise over your run. So that means we're running 2 and we're rising by 1. So we take the point that we have here, right, and we're going to go, we're running 2 spots. Now you can run left or right. I'm going to choose to run left. So I'm going to go 1, 2, okay, and now I have to we have to rise by 1. Now, does that mean we go 1 down or 1 up? So that's when we look at the negative sign, and we know that we talked about this, that it has to be decreasing. So that means we're going to go up by 1 here, and we put our cross. If you had run 2 the other way, 1, 2, then you would have to go down, because if you went up, it would be increasing. Okay, and just get rid of some of those little, okay, and we then connect our dots. And it works out just like we predicted, that it was going to be decreasing, and it's a little bit lower than it was before, than the blue line. It's less steep. Okay, does that help? I hope. Let's just do one more. And sorry, can you please make sure that you get that down? So copy that down, pause the video, get it down. Okay, another example. We've got y equals 3 over 2x take 1. So again, before we even graph it, we know from this it's positive. That means it is going that way. Okay. I can see also that my y-intercept is going to be minus 1. We'll just go through the motions. So y-intercept, x equals 0, y equals 3 over 2 times 0, take 1. So we end up with y equals, now 3 over 2 is 0. 0 take 1 is minus 1. So that gives me the point 0, minus 1. And we can pop that cross there. So sorry, my graph might be getting a little bit crowded, but if I erase, everything disappears. So I'll get rid of it in a minute and do a fresh one. All right, so now we look at our slope. Now my slope is the thing in front of the x there, 3 over 2. So we take the y-intercept that we have here, and we want to, remember this is our run and this is our rise. So we're running 1, 2, and then we're going to rise, sorry, you can't see that, 1, 2, 3, and then we put the cross there. If you want to get a third point, we can go again, run 2, rise 3. We can even go over here, we're running 2 and rise 3. And you can see they all form a lovely, here's my steady hand, a lovely straight line. Okay. If you didn't like to do that, again, you could have picked 2 values for x. You could have, I would have still gone 0, okay, I could then go, okay, what about if x equals 2? Well, then you sub it back into here and we end up with y equals 3 over 2 times 2, take 1. So they cancel. I get y equals 3 take 1 is 2, and that gives me the coordinate 2, 2. Look at this, across 2, up 2, that's one of the coordinates that we had already. Okay. So again, get that down if you need to. Practice some of the ones from the textbook and pause the video because we're about to have a look at the third option. Okay, so let's go the last example when we graph our x and our y-intercepts, and we think, okay, we've got this because we already know our y-intercept, so it's not going to be too much of a bother. But some of you might be going, why are we having a third way to do this? Well, if you think about what we were just doing before, we had the rise over the run because we had our slope. If you look at this equation, can you tell me what the slope is? You could, but you would have to get it into the form y equals mx plus c, so you'd have to rearrange it. Okay, that's an option that you could do, or we can do this one. We can say, right, let's do what we did before by finding our y-intercept, and we know that that occurs when x equals 0. All right, a little bit of consistency with maths, we love it. So we go into our equation here, and we go, okay, we're going to make our x here 0. So that becomes 2 times 0 plus 3y equals 12. So 2 times 0 is nothing. So I'm left with 3y equals 12. So 3 times something equals 12. You probably know that that's 4, but if you didn't, you do the opposite of timesing 3, which is dividing by 3, and hey presto, we get 4. So that's my coordinate 0, 4. We come over here, 0, that means we go up to 4. That's my y-intercept. Now we do the same to find our x-intercept. So this time though, instead of making x0, right, to find your y-intercept you make x0. To find your x-intercept we will make y0. Got to agree, that makes sense. Okay, so we come back to our equation, always back to the original, and we're now going to make y0. So we end up with 2x plus 3 times 0. And I keep writing this. I mean, you're happy. I'm happy if you just write, oh my God, that's just 0. Don't write 3 times 0. It's just 0. You know that. Okay, equals 12. So we end up with 2x equals 12. So now x equals, remember to get rid of this divide, the times by 2, we want to divide by 2. Or you might know, I already know, 2 6s are 12. So that's how we get the 6. And remember, every coordinate is x then y. So x and my y is 0. Now, a little bit of an issue because, oops, doesn't quite fit into my scale. You just have to widen that a little bit, go down to here to 6 and connect, bang, the dots. And there you have 2x plus 3y equals 12. Could you use the other methods 1 and 2? Absolutely. But to use method 2, you'd have to rearrange, as we said. To use method 1, you could still just choose any random values that you want for x, but you would still have some fractions in there. Let's try one more example. Okay, so let's have another go at this one. Right, we've got x take 2y equals 4, so same deal. Whoopsies. So we will go, oh, I didn't know I could shrink that. There you go. We will go y-intercept. Having fun with my colors. X equals 0. Okay, so now we make x 0, so we're now left with minus 2y equals 4. How do I get rid of that times 2? Times negative 2, we're going to divide by negative 2, so minus 2, that gives me 0 minus 2. I'm going a bit faster now. You can pause the video or go back. So to find our x-intercept, right, you should look back at the previous example. Y equals 0, so now we're making y 0 there. So x minus, now we go, 2 times 0 is 0. So I could write minus 0, but why bother? It's just going to be x. So x equals 4. That gives me 4, 0. So the more you do, the quicker you'll be able to go with these. So that means 0 minus 2 down here. We've got 4, 0 there. Connect the dots, missed it by a little bit there. And there we have it. That's x. Take 2y equals 4. Now obviously, you know, if that wasn't, let's go over here, if this wasn't a 4, right, if that was a 5, then okay, you're going to be graphing 5 over 2, so it's a fraction. Well, you can find that. All right, but that's it in a nutshell. Try and practice the ones from your textbook, and practice makes perfect. And that's about it.